That's what started my venture into coffee data collection, was because I had a machine where I started changing up some of the variables. I thought these variables will change the extraction, and they did nothing.
Hey everybody, we are here with good friend Dr. Robert Aloe. I think we met on Instagram a few years ago, and then you stopped by our booth last year, and now he's here to talk about his first book that we got and the new one coming out.
Yes.
So you have a good flight?
Yes.
Good.
Short. I had a little bit of coffee because I knew I was coming here and I was going to have too much coffee.
That's right, always.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this book was interesting. There haven't been a whole lot of new espresso books, in the last 10 years.
Right.
What was your kind of big takeaway after you did, your own personal journey and experiments? What do you think the big one or two synopsises for this book are?
So this book came out of all of my writings, and I was thinking about putting together like an anthology of my writings, and it was like 1,200 pages on coffee, right? So I asked people, is anybody interested in like a big flump of all this together, to like more categorized? And the feedback I got was like 200 pages. Do not write more than 200 pages. It's too much, right? So I went through a couple versions of how do I extract the most important information from my writings? And I came to this format of figuring out good, better, best for different coffee variables. So I think I list out like 26 variables that you can change in your brewing process. And some of them cost money, like grinders, buying a better grinder. But some of them are simply changing pre-infusion time or bloom or something like that. And so I wanted to say, how do you improve incrementally different steps of the process? Because like when you get into espresso, if you look up practical guides, there isn't like a really good one aside from Flair. Flair has like a really good, concise beginner's intro on how to make good espresso that comes with their machines, that's on their website. That's not too much information, but otherwise, if you look at beginner guides, they go too much into the bean preparation, too much into the roasting, too much into many variables. That how do you know where to start?
Yeah.
And it seems like a flood of information. And then often people are like, well, you should just start and like mess up a bunch and then you'll figure it out, kind of.
Yeah.
So the book isn't necessarily for beginners though. Like the idea is you've been doing espresso for a little bit and now you want to try to improve on certain variables. And this is to help guide that path.
Yeah, and I think also it's coming up with a mathematical model of sorts of, okay, the coffee tastes like this, but I want it to taste like this.
Yeah.
Now these are the variables, and so it's nice if you can have predictive capabilities. I'm sure as a scientist and a coffee guy, it can get frustrating when you go to make something and it doesn't act like it should be acting.
Right.
And that's kind of like the reason of the deep dive.
Right. Well, and that's what started my venture into coffee data collection, was because I had a machine where I started changing up some of the variables. I thought these variables will change the extraction, and they did nothing. And it's because the machine I was working on was also old, and I probably should have like torn apart the group head. But I thought I could fix a lot of the stuff, whatever problems were during the shot. And part of it I could make a little bit of progress, but then there was part of it that I just didn't know until I started collecting data.
And I appreciate your almost unorthodox style of inquiry into stuff that I had never seen before, like putting gaskets on top of the puck before you brew it to keep water from channeling to the outside.
Right.
Stuff that was really novel and can be helpful for a slower production cafe or a home drinker.
Right.
But and I think those explorations really help. It's the fringes, the tip of the spear coffee people that
Right.
You're doing things that in 10 years, right, have maybe more applicable commercial or retail applications, but
Right.
it's fun to witness and kind of watch that latest breaking coffee science being done. Yeah, so tell us about your new book coming out, your blog, kind of your current
Sure.
projects you're working on.
So I have a new book coming out. Like when I published this book, I most of these experiments came from the lever machine, and for afterwards, I bought a decent espresso machine, and I changed my grinders a bit, and I started doing some other explorations. And I was a little frustrated with the decent because I couldn't get the shot profile of my Kim Express. And I was like, this is my standard. Like the decent needs to be better than my lever machine. So as I started doing these experiments, I found out it wasn't. And I was like, why? I need to know why. I need to fix this machine. I need to justify this cost.
Yes.
And so this led to question everything. Like, is the water coming out the right way? Is the temperature flows coming out the right way? Am I dosing the right level? Am I resting the coffee enough? And so after like 2 years of more experiments, I was like, I have enough material for another book, and I really feel like it's more advanced coffee exploration because I found a deeper understanding of coffee, where I looked at it from 4 like large categories of elements, which I thought it was cute: earth, wind, water, and fire.
Yeah.
So like earth being the coffee, water, of course, is the water, the wind is the CO2, and then the fire is the thermal energy that's going into this. And so by breaking it up into these areas, I feel like I'm able to cut through some ambiguity of what's going on inside the shop.
Very cool.
So that's what the book's about. And then I've gotten to a point with espresso where I feel really good about where I'm at. And I'm kind of interested in some new area that I haven't had much data on.
Yeah.
So then that's coffee roasting. And it's not aiming to be like professional coffee roaster. It's just aiming to do the same thing that I did with espresso, which is cut through a bunch of the variables and see if there's anything new. Maybe there's not, but it's exciting to be able to drive my data explorations by however I want to go about them. They're not driven by anybody else. They're not driven by some end goal. I'm just interested in what am I going to find.
It's fun when there's questions and you're like, oh, there should be an answer to this. You find out there is none.
Yes.
And then that's super enticing because you're like, well, I want to figure this out.
Right.
And
right.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Right.
And then you have a blog too.
Yes. Right? I've kept the same blog. I've had a blog on Medium for like 6 years, and I like writing. I just enjoy the process of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the process of writing and having some documentation about what's going on. So like most of what's in this book and most of what's in my second book are all from my blog.
Right.
And it's just, these books are more of a concentrated, like I'm extracting it, the information in a different way and positioning it with the other information to where it's compelling in a shorter read.
Nice.
In the blog. But I really do like that format. The only challenge I think for readers could be that I have multiple experiments going on at the same time. So it's not like a straightforward storyline.
Yeah. No.
But it's also a nice place to write out more than just one graph or two graphs.
And to kind of choose your own adventure so they can kind of go and see what interests them.
Right.
And then on socials, are mostly on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. I was doing a lot of YouTube, but I've had difficulty with just balancing out life.
Yes.
To like YouTube, I feel like requires more time without kids running around.
Yep.
Whereas on Instagram, I could put music behind it.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to.
Yeah, not quite as polished, but still.
Yeah, there's chaos in the background with the kids.
Well, awesome. Well, we appreciate you joining us.
Yes.
And look up what's your handle? Is
Espresso Fun.
Espresso Fun on Instagram. And we hope to see you at the next one, and we'll have this next book here.
Next book is at the printer. It should be if all goes well coming out this summer. So
Sweet.
Everything looks like it's on track. So
awesome. Hey, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Oh shit.
Hey.